Hello, fellow Rotarians. I'm Cedric Hill, and it's my distinct honor to serve as your club's president for the Rotary year 2022-2023. As we move into the next year with the challenges our world faces, I'd like to call the club of even more action, impacting our community, nation, and world with the same fierceness and intention Rotary has always exhibited. Thank you for your service to Rotary. This is our home club. To the community and world that we face, let's together imagine Rotary. Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome you to our November 2nd Rotary Club of Columbus meeting. I call the meeting to order. If you would join me and pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this point, I'd like to call on Ms. Gail if she would come and give us an invocation according to her faith tradition.
Let us pray. Lord, we thank you for the blessings and gift of life this beautiful day. We thank you for the blanket of safety you have provided to us throughout the night, giving you all the glory and all the praise. We come to you asking you for your anointing that we remain obedient to use our gifts for service to those in need and draw every man, woman, and child we encounter closer to you. Ephesians 2:10 says that we are the workmanship created in Christ Jesus for good works which God prepared beforehand, that we walk in them. We serve and volunteer confidently, knowing that God has prepared this way for us. It is our intentional purpose to be a servant to the less fortunate and those in need. We seek and ask and be reminded that we walk in our purpose each and every day. Again, we give you all the glory and all the praise. You are so worthy. All these blessings in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. And if you would be so kind to go ahead and donate for the can that is on your table, thank you so much.
At this point, I'd like to call on Ben if you would come and give us our news for today.
Thank you, President Cedric. He was looking for me over here. Today is November 2nd, and here are your headlines. Elon Musk acquires Twitter and takes the company private. Elon Musk closed his purchase of Twitter Thursday night and took the company private after the social media company went public in 2013. As a part of his $44 billion acquisition, of the social media service, he is delisting the company's stock and taking it out of the hands of public shareholders. With the deal's completion, Twitter's board of directors will dissolve, and its 9 members will no longer preside over the company's operations. Musk also started cleaning house, with several of Twitter's top executives getting fired on Thursday. Last call for early voting in person. With Georgians continue to turn out to the polls in record numbers during the early voting period for the highly anticipated midterm election, early in-person voting deadline is soon approaching, as the November 4th cutoff day is now just 2 days away. Voters who want to cast their ballots early but haven't already should make their plans to visit the early voting location by Friday of this week, or else they'll have to wait until vote until Election Day on November 8th. Georgia voters will soon decide on key statewide races, including the highly anticipated governor race and Georgia's U.S. Senate race. And finally, it was on this day in 1976, November 2nd, 1976, that former Georgia Governor Jimmy Carter was elected the 39th President of the United States, narrowly defeating Gerald Ford. You can expect partly cloudy skies today with a high of 77 and low of 54. Have a great day.
Thank you so much, Ben. At this point, Frey, if you would come and introduce our visitors and guests today.
Thank you, President Cedric. Fellow Rotarians, I want to welcome several guests today. Gail Burgess has one of her work colleagues from Girls Inc., Robin McKissick. She's here today. Welcome, Robin. Yep. Ernie Smallman has Joanne Kogel. Joanne, you may have seen her signs around town. She is the city council person-elect for District 7. So get ready. You're in it now, Joanne. So good luck. Represent us well. Gail Burgess also has Kel Indu. Kel is here. Kel is in-house counsel with the Hartford Insurance Company, and he and his family have just moved here. He's working remotely and was interested in finding out about Rotary, so wanted to come in and see it. I think he's a former Rotaract. Yep, so great. So welcome. Kent Ilgis has Leanne DeCesaris. Leanne is here. She is a marketing director with the Coldwell Banker office here in town. And Barbara Smith is welcoming an old friend, Rachel Farron, who some of you may recognize, or either by sight or by voice. Robin was our GRSP student in Harris County in 2016, 2017, and she's from Edinburgh, Scotland. So that's all we've got today.
Give
Thanks.
our visitors and guests a hand for being with us today. To our visitors and guests, we again welcome you and ask that you would come back and visit with us at another time, another date, if you would like to do that. Each week, as a token of our appreciation for the contributions that Colonel Retired Ralph Puckett made to the military and to this community, we honor a soldier each week. And at this point, I'd like to call on Tom, if you would come and introduce us to the Colonel Ralph Puckett Jr. Soldier of the Week.
Okay, President Cedric, it is a great day to be a Rotarian.
It is.
And also a great day to be a soldier. So I want to introduce Specialist Samantha Vivaro. She is a 42 Alpha, a human resource specialist, HR clerk, and serves as a human resource clerk specialist in the 2nd Battalion, 11th Infantry Regiment, as part of the infantry school out at Fort Benning. Her previous assignment was the S1 Accountability Liaison at the 377th MI Battalion. That was a reserve unit in Austin, Texas. She's been to the Combat Life-Saving Savers course, the Unit Postal course, has the National Defense Service Medal and Army Service Ribbon. She was born in the great state of Texas, San Antonio, and and joined the Army in March of 2019 under the split option program. She attended basic combat training at Fort Jackson and returned a year later to complete the AIT, earning her MOS. She is married to her husband, Aaron, and currently resides in Alabama with their dog. So Specialist Barbero, I'd like to first of all give you a Rotary coin, and you know what to do with that. Secondly, I have a passport to the arts, and these are a pair of tickets to numerous venues here in town, including the River Center, the Symphony Orchestra, the National Infantry Museum, the Columbus State Theater, and the Springer. So I hope you and your husband enjoy that. And finally, I'd like to present the book Word for Warriors. This was written by Colonel Ralph Puckett. We have an inscription in here. It's given to you by Rotarian Judy Thomas in honor of the author, Colonel Puckett, who is a Medal of Honor winner. So please receive that as a gift from us. And welcome to Rotary, and come back and visit us anytime. And if you'd like to say a word.
I just wanted to say thank you guys for having me. Everything you've done, everything that you guys will do, it just sounds truly amazing. I haven't really heard of a club that has done so much. And again, thank you. Really honored to be here.
Specialist Barrero, we would again like to welcome you and thank you for being with us today and being our guest. We'd ask that you would take back to your fellow soldiers on Fort Benning how much we appreciate what you guys do for us. And please come back and visit with us at a later time. Let's give her another hand for being with us today. It's always a great day when we can introduce a new member to our club. At this point, I'd like to call on Otis Pickett. If you would come and introduce us to a new Rotarian.
Afternoon, everybody. This is Corey Bank. He is a broadcaster and is at WNBC 38. He's originally from Manhattan, New York. Sorry, is that better? And grew up in South Florida. He's always loved athletics. In his college years, especially, ended up playing college rugby at Gulf Coast University. He had a tragedy happen in his early years, and because of the passing of his mom, put his commitment to working with the American Cancer Society. Has done so since the age of 16. He's also really involved, has been involved in other nonprofit areas. He's a Dale Carnegie graduate and has worked in the Chamber of Commerce in the many TV markets and radio markets he's been in. And he's going to help us make it a better place in Columbus. So I wish you would take a minute to welcome Corey Bank.
Thank you for letting me join your team. I look forward to building a prosperous community and to make a difference in everyone's lives, and most importantly, the ones less fortunate. Thank you, everyone.
Corey, if you would, I'd just like to officially welcome you to the club, and I love what you just said, and we look forward to working with you. Let's give him a hand again for joining us. Just want to remind you that tomorrow we'll have a Zoom makeup from 6 until 8 p.m. And we've got 2 service projects that we're basically working on, and I think Louise will come and speak to us about Habitat, and I think, Joe Young will come and speak to us about another project. So if you guys would give them your attention for just a second, please. Important stuff.
Well, we have a few more weeks that you can help officially as a Rotarian at our 3 I can't talk today. At our 3 build sites. We're to the fun stuff now where we're putting up walls and the trusses will be ordered soon. So please sign up if you can. I brought my laptop if you need help navigating our volunteer hub. And also we're going to have a Kids Day on November 12th. We can only have 16 and over at the job site officially, so we're going to have one house that's for kids only. So if you have any kids, just the link has been sent out, but I can give you more information. But I appreciate all the people that have come out so far, and a few regulars have been coming out several times, so thank you.
Hey, we'll give you an update on the garden. So this is George Washington Carver Victory Garden located on Shepherd Drive behind Marshall Success Center. We have had several work days out there. I want you to put Veterans Day, Friday the 11th, on your calendar. That's the date that we've designated to actually raise the greenhouse. We've got the components to the greenhouse on site. There's some additional site prep that's going to happen between now and next Friday, but we'd love to have a good group out there to help with that project. And even if you're not construction minded, there's plenty of other stuff to do. We still have some small trees and shrubs to cut down, debris that needs to be cleared. So hope to see a lot of you guys out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe and Louise. If you volunteer for either one or both of these projects, if you would just raise your hand. Great. If you will attest to some of our fellow Rotarians that have not, let them know how important this is and how much it means to this community for us to be able to have that kind of an impact with those 2 projects. Home building and farming. Even they could use a person like me out there with it. And I enjoy being out there both with Joe and Louise and some of those other guys. So please sign up for that. Please engage this. We really need your presence on these projects. This point, what I'd like to do is to introduce our head table. Ms. Gail brought our invocation. At this point, I'd like to call on Debbie, if you would come and introduce our program for today. Ms. Debbie, if you would come.
Thank you, President Cedric. Hi, everybody. I'm really excited to be here. Back in the early 90s, there was a young woman who stood before you as the first executive director of the Columbus Literate Community Program. She spoke to you about literacy and the importance of it in our community, and she was not the least bit nervous. And that young woman was me, but there have been a lot of years that have gone by since then, and trust me, I'm a little more nervous today than I was then. In fact, Billy Watson, who was the president and publisher of the paper who invited me to speak that day, was nervous for me, and I found out later, after the speech, the program was over, that he was even more nervous because I wasn't. I didn't even know enough to be nervous in front of you. But I'm happy to be here with you. Since that time, I've had the honor and the privilege of serving in different positions around the community. I was the Vice President of Workforce Development for the Chamber. I was the Assistant Director at CSU's Adult Ed Division. I served as CEO of Girl Scouts of Conchardy Council, and then later Chief Development Officer of Girl Scouts of Historic Georgia. I share those things with you so that you know a little bit more about me, but also, more importantly, so that you know that I've had the incredible honor and pleasure of seeing our community address difficult issues from many different perspectives, from the perspective of children, adults, those who have a lot, and those who have nothing. And I've watched our community do great things addressing difficult issues. I'm here today kind of in a dual role. I'm now the president and executive director of Right from the Start. You'll learn a lot more about us in a moment. And I'm also here to introduce you to my colleague, Herman Ivey. Herman is our Fatherhood Initiative coordinator. Herman has a business background. He's worked for Weyerhaeuser, he's worked for Sam's, he's worked nationally, internationally. He is a real estate agent. He is an ordained minister and an evangelist at heart, and you'll learn more about Herman's work in a minute. I'm going to toss this to him in just a few minutes. But first, I'd like to share with you a little bit about Right from the Start, who we are, what we do, and then we want to focus on a particular issue that's facing Columbus and our county. So I'll let you bring up the slideshow, please. I didn't have to wear glasses back in the early 90s either. Let's even move to the next slide. Let's get going here right away. Right from the Start is an organization that teaches relationship education throughout the community. We were founded in 2009 out of the Pastoral Institute, and I wanted to say thank you to Tom, and Tom had to leave early, to Ron King, to Rick Alexander, and to many others who were involved in that, in the founding of our organization. That what happened was a group of leaders came together within the Pastoral Institute's umbrella, or under the umbrella, concerned about poverty in our community. A few weeks ago, we heard from Betsy about some of the incredible things that are happening here in Columbus and some of the things that we are struggling with, some of the conflicts and the difficulties and the challenges that we face. I think you'll see some of those come to life a little bit more for you as we talk through the program today. But these leaders, these community leaders who have a heart for the people who live here in Columbus, are really concerned not only about poverty, but what they saw as the disintegration of the family. Not only is it happening here, but everywhere, but especially here, it touched them. Because what they realized as they researched more about the causes of poverty was that the disintegration of the family was at the core of that. It was one of the primary causes of poverty right here in our community. So they founded Right from the Start with a mission to decrease the divorce rate, decrease the number of out-of-wedlock pregnancies, and to increase fathers' involvement in the lives of their children. And these goals you'll see reflected now in our vision statement, where, again, you'll see we hope to see in Columbus strengthened marriages, a reduced number of out-of-wedlock pregnancies, fathers who are present involved with their families, and young people who are prepared to create and maintain positive relationships. I really, when I think about who we are and what we do, this statement really speaks the most to me, and I hear Steve Butler say this to me so often. Right from the Start is boldly countering a culture that creates broken families, destroyed lives, and desperate communities. It doesn't take long for us to look at our music, our movies, our social interaction, and realize that relationships have been broken. And in particular, our families have suffered from that. Not only have our families suffered, our entire community has, and that's why we're working to strengthen families. It's our calling. This phrase, to me, is our internal challenge. It's our calling, and it really, really matters here as much, if not more, than anywhere else. Why is that? Well, take a look at some of these stats and you'll see. Did you know that 53% of the children who are born here are born to single moms? Let that sink in a minute. That's over half our kids are born to single moms. So you know that they are born into a situation that is likely to create poverty or impoverishment. It's really frightening when you think about that, and you wonder why, as we work and work and work to make sure that our fellow Columbusites, our fellow citizens are doing well, it's no wonder when we see stats like this. Our divorce rate's higher, though the percentage rate doesn't look big. It's higher than the state and the national average. Did you know that? And did you know that almost half of our kids are being brought up in single-family households? Not only that, but 25 to 30% of them are being raised in poverty. That number varies depending on the source that you read. So we're doing everything that we can to address those issues by working through 5 signature programs. I just want to share one with you, and then we're going to talk about a new focus that we have. But our largest signature program is called REAL, Relationship, Education, and Leadership. We teach that in the 9th grade classrooms throughout Muskogee County, and we also teach it in the middle schools, in 5 middle schools in person. It's an evidence-based curriculum that teaches kids how to identify, develop, and maintain positive relationships. And it also teaches them how to identify a toxic relationship. You'd be surprised at the number of kids who don't realize that the incredibly toxic relationships in which they're involved are toxic at all. Many of them think they're normal. And so we help them identify that and figure out how to navigate both kinds of relationships. And before I even go on, I don't know if David Lewis is here today, but I want to thank him because he has opened the door to the public school system for us in a way that's really unusual, and we're so grateful for that. To be able to spend 2 weeks every semester in every 9th grade classroom is really a remarkable thing, and I'm grateful to David for that and for the leadership. We also teach the kids about their own personal value. And a lot of that is so very important because few kids are made to feel valued in their homes or in their families. And we also teach them or give them practical reasons why they should postpone sexual activity. Practical reasons. We can talk to them about the moral reasons. We could talk to them about the spiritual reasons, but we choose to talk to them in this secular environment about the practical reasons why they should postpone sexual activity. Part of the data that we use is shown here for you, and it's really powerful. I don't know how many of you have ever heard of the success sequence, which is some research done out of the American Enterprise Institute, but what it tells us and what we try to use, this is what we try to use to motivate kids and inspire them to make wise decisions in their relationships. What it tells us is that if a person, I want to say a child, but if a person graduates from high school, gets a job, and waits until marriage to have a child, they are 70% likely to avoid poverty. Think about that. We're talking about half of our children born into single-parent households prone to poverty. If they will follow the success sequence, 70% of them are likely to avoid it. By the time they're 30, the newest research out of the American Enterprise Institute says that by the time they're 30, this is actually a misprint, 97% of them will have escaped or avoided poverty. Graduate, get a job, wait till you're married to have kids. Sometimes that hits home with our kids. The other thing that's been really cool for us to learn has been the results of a longitudinal study that Harvard did. It's called the Study of Adult Development, and it followed its subjects for 80 years. It continues today. It started with the study of male Harvard graduates, and it expanded into a study of male Harvard graduates and their wives, and then their kids, and has now expanded into a very diverse group of subjects. And what they found was that more than anything else, more than education, more than wealth, more than travel, relationships, long-lasting, positive relationships were what brought people joy and fulfillment in their lives. Think about that when you think about how you encourage and motivate your kids. So this year, there's a lot more that I could talk with you about, but this year I want to tell you more about our focus on fatherlessness. So let's think back again to those 53% of our children who are born into single-family households. 49% of them continue to grow up in single-family households, most of them with their mothers. And before I move on with any of the other data that I want to share with you or any of the other work that we want to share with you, I want to preface it by saying some things that I think are really important because I want you to know our heart. I want you to know where we come from and how we really respect the differences in the lives of so many of us. First of all, we recognize the heroic efforts of single mothers, many of whose children defy all the odds, all the stats that I'm going to share with you. We recognize that and we honor that. So single moms, don't call me after this. They call me and rip me up every now and then. We recognize that it's a heroic effort and that many children, some children, escape poverty in spite of the fact that their families are not together. We also recognize that some dads want to be lovingly engaged with their children, but they face obstacles that are beyond their control. Hear us say that. And we also recognize and are sensitive to the fact that not all parents are physically or emotionally capable of being lovingly engaged with their children and probably shouldn't be in the home with them. So I want to preface everything we say. I hope you heard me. I hope you heard that we recognize all those things. But I want to share the facts with you because they're powerful. And when we think about families that are broken, we have to talk about absent fathers. And so, here we go. I want you to take a look at some of these stats because I think they're shocking. This stuff comes from the National Fatherhood Institute, from census data, from Kids Count, from the Department of Justice, from the Young Warriors Foundation. You can keep talking about where these sources come from. There are multiple sources. But here's the thing. Kids who grow up without a father present are twice as likely to drop out of school. They're 4 times more likely to grow up in poverty, and they're 7 times more likely to become pregnant as a teen. I don't like this stuff, and I don't like having to share this. And I don't like that it hurts people to hear that there are difficulties that children face when they grow up in fatherless homes. But facts are facts. And so we, as fellow citizens of Columbus, have to face this and begin to think about what we can do to make a difference here. The U.S. Department of Justice says that children from fatherless homes account for 60% of the youth suicides, 90% of youth runaways, 71% of high school dropouts, and 70% of youth juvenile detentions. If you talk to the folks in the drug court, they'll tell you that about 70% of the kids who come through drug court are kids who come from fatherless homes. So we want to do something about that. And I think Columbus wants to be healthy. I think we want our families to be healthy and strong and together. And so we have shifted our focus. That's not really true. We have decided to prioritize our work with fatherlessness, or our work to try to decrease fatherlessness. And Herman came on staff earlier this year to help us try to do that. And so now I'm going to turn it over to Herman and let him talk with you a little bit more about that.
Thank you, Debbie, and good afternoon. As Debbie said, I'm Herman Ivey, and I lead the Fatherhood Initiative on behalf of Right From the Start. This is a very, very important work that we're doing. It's important to understand that it takes all of us to do this work. So again, we're here today to share the opportunity, and as we continue to move forward, we're going to look to some of you all to join us in this work. When we think about the work that's being done as well, we have several ways in which we reach out to fathers and children. One of those programs is called All Pro Dads. This program is taking place throughout some of the local churches and throughout some of the local schools here in our community. And the focus of this program is for dads and kids to come together once a month, and really for dads to appreciate and encourage and affirm their children publicly in a setting of other dads and other kids. It's about a 30-minute opportunity monthly, which allows for some teaching to occur that would be lifelong for the kids, but also more importantly, the kids love to know that their parents affirm them. They love to see that happening. So All Pro Dads is an opportunity where we are able to see dads and kids come together, and really what happens in those moments are life-changing moments. I'm blessed to have had a dad who affirmed me throughout my life. I'm sure many of you have as well. And for those who haven't, I will encourage you as well that everybody in this room is very much appreciated in terms of how we're created by our Creator in His image and in His likeness. When you also think about the work that we're doing as well, the other part of that is addressing this issue of fatherlessness. One of the things that I did when I came on board with Right From the Start is I sat down with a number of folks over a 6-month period to really understand how they and their organizations are touching dads and kids in our community. Additionally, as well, as early as last evening, I held the 4th roundtable conversation on a variety of topics having to do with fathers. I will highlight as well some of that work for you here today. Back in August, I had a roundtable conversation. That conversation dealt with the challenges of fatherhood by vulnerable populations. And so we had a number of dads and a number of organizations who serve vulnerable populations come together and talk about some of those challenges and how we overcome those challenges. And then September, I had a second roundtable opportunity with legal obstacles to engage fatherhood. We had many people from our legal community and public servants as well get together with dads and talk about what are the challenges that we see in this particular space as it relates to legal obstacles in our community, and how can we overcome some of those obstacles. And then it continued to go to October. We had the opportunity to come together and talk about employment-related challenges facing engaged fatherhood. So we had business leaders and business owners come together with fathers and really understand how can we be more supportive of dads who want to be engaged in their children's lives going forward. And then last night, some would say I saved the best for last. I'm not so sure about that, but we had a great conversation just last night with a variety of local pastors, about 15 to 20 of them, and we talked about what is the church's role in helping to address this issue of fatherlessness. And we had a very robust conversation last night and came up with some solutions as well in terms of this particular issue. The reality is this particular issue touches every area of our community. The reality is it takes all of us to make a difference. And so these particular roundtable conversations were just one touch point of some of the work that we're going to be doing in this particular space. When you think about the initiative as well in terms of the Fatherhood Initiative, as you can see on the screen that we have up right now, there is a lack of consistent family structure in many families in our communities today. And what this affects, it affects the child as they are growing and maturing in their day-to-day life. We also see a lack of positive role models. We need folks who can nurture and help develop young people into successful young people as they grow. We need role models who can come alongside and invest in the lives of kids as well. And many of you, if not all of you in this room, can certainly serve in that capacity, I'm quite sure. The other thing that we see is a need for more church involvement, which is what I spoke about just last night in bringing some pastors together to really understand where is the church and what should be the church's role in helping to address this problem. And then the other thing that we also are focused on is bringing the community together around this. This is not a problem that affects one type of person or individual. It affects all of us, and it affects us in many different ways. And so we want voices, and we want people to understand, but more importantly, we want to bring solutions to the table as well that will help to curb this situation and improve this situation long term. And I'll be able to share more about that in just one moment. And then if you continue on as well in talking about the initiative that I'm leading here, we are also offering some healthy manhood classes. These manhood classes are really designed to help men understand, what does it mean to be a man? How do I know when I achieve manhood? Who defines what a man is? What isn't a man, right? And so it's important to have a clear understanding of manhood. These manhood classes are available not only in terms of businesses or other arenas, they're also being utilized in churches and other venues as well. And then as I talked about with the roundtable conversations, this is just an opportunity to bring people together who might not otherwise come together. You know, one of the things that I said to the groups, all four groups actually, is get to know somebody that you don't know, even though you're working in the same space. And it's amazing how the relationships were formed and continue to be formed even beyond the roundtable conversations. You know, no matter what we do in life, it really is all about relationships. And so we must have and engage in relationships with other folks that we may or may not know well. And so the roundtable conversations were clearly an opportunity to bring people together to get to know one another. Now, out of this work that I'm doing and that we're doing as it relates to the roundtable conversations, we will be formulating it right from the start, a task force. This task force is going to be really looking at how do we go from talking about it to doing something about it, right? Because at the end of the day, it's about actions that really help to curtail this issue and address this issue. And so coming out of the roundtable conversations, we're going to start to tap some people on the shoulder and say, we need you to be a part of a task team that's really going to be looking at long-term and short-term opportunities to see positive change in this area of addressing fatherlessness. We can solve this problem together. We can solve this problem together. However, this problem is also spiritual in nature, and God himself has the answer. And so when we think about what we're going to be doing, God already has the plan. He's just going to download it to us, and we're going to carry it out of love and obedience. And so the bottom line is the task force is going to be coming very soon. You're going to hear more about it very soon as well. I hope at the very least you will pray for us and pray with us as we continue to seek to make a difference in this area of fatherlessness in our community at large. And so, again, I thank you for your prayers also. Let me pause here and just allow for you all to come and talk to Debbie and I if you have any questions about the work that we're doing, about the efforts that are underway, about efforts that are coming in the very near future. We entertain your questions at this time, and I'll turn it over to Brother Cedric and Debbie.
Microphones that will come. We got a couple of hands over here. Ian?
It has some light up. I can see where the hands are.
Thank you for the lights.
Hello, there we go. How you doing? Thank you. There you go. I got two questions. One is, you said the poverty, how are you going to get the people to you, or are you going to go to the people? And number two is, how do you get the information into them areas?
In terms of getting to the people, it's going to be a combined effort of reaching out to them, but also bringing them to us as well through partnering with others in our community who already have those relationships, who can also bring us to them and bring them to us. It's a partnership. We're not here to do this alone, but it is a combined effort, and we've got a number of relationships that we are forming and have formed where we're going to be able to go back and work alongside others as well as be able to reach out ourselves within our community. And then your second question was?
How do you get the information into the neighborhood, flyers,
Well, I think as we come together with a task force, we're going to start to figure out some of that detail. That work is something that we're still needing to figure out, but I do have some thoughts about it where we need to just sit down and formulate. We just finished out the roundtables last night, and so now we're going to start to look at that data, look at that information as we think about putting this task force together. Yes.
Just to add to that, we've realized through some of these conversations that this is such a complex issue. There are a lot of layers to this onion that we are going to be looking for ways to encourage and help fatherless children. We're going to have to be working on the legal aspects that our fathers are facing, which may involve some legislation. Let me warn you, our legislators. We are going to have to be working on things for fathers who want to be involved, who have other obstacles, and we're going to have to figure out a way to reach those dads who really don't understand how important their role is or who at this moment don't care. And I won't say that, I can't say how many of each of those groups there are, but we know that there are many layers to this work. It's very, very, very complex, and we're going to need everybody's help.
In the back.
Thank you for the presentation. Are you aware of any communities who are doing this work well that you can model on or partner with?
Yes, just last night I highlighted Grand Rapids, Michigan has been doing this work now for over 20 years, and I'll be reaching out to them to learn more about what they have learned also as they have addressed fatherlessness in their community. The beauty of Grand Rapids is about the same size as Columbus. The similarities are really amazing in terms of their community versus our community as well in surrounding areas also. So yes, we have highlighted Grand Rapids.
And let me add to that if you're aware of a community around the nation, anywhere in the nation, who is similar to us, who is doing great things, we'd love to hear about those as well. We'd like to use those not only as to help us, but also to help us set benchmarks.
Debbie, I have a question, if I may. It's a blessing to hear everything that you're sharing today. It's heartbreaking to know. And what I love about what you're doing, your initiatives, is that you're reaching out to the churches. And you mentioned that you met with 15 to 20 of the church pastors.
Yes.
How do you intend to reach farther out as far as getting a greater number? Our community needs to have their church or their temple or whatever however they worship, they need to know that this is available to them. I just think it's amazing. It's God's gift.
Yes, yes.
Thank you, Carol. Yes, between 15 and 20 pastors came last night. There was a wide variety of churches. As I was just sharing with Thad earlier, there were large churches, small churches, churches that have a lot of resources, churches that have few resources. And yes, we need to have more churches involved. Not only that, but there are two things that keep coming up in these conversations that I think are important. Where churches are concerned, one of the points that was made several times last night is that having the pastors involved is very important, but even more important are groups of men encouraging each other and helping each other with issues related to fathering, because oftentimes in our culture, fathers are pushed to the side or seen only as the financial provider. And ladies, I know you hate hearing that, but that's still true. And it's still oftentimes how men are perceived in the family. And so we've got to work through those issues. And men who are able to encourage one another in honest, open conversation can be helpful. I've been amazed at how open these men have been in these conversations. I didn't expect it to be quite as raw, frankly, as it has been. And I had another point, but as I say, I'm getting older. I can't remember now what that was. I'll have to think about it later.
Is that enough? Okay.
where's the next generation of grandmothers coming from? Because so many of our young people today, they're not going to be the same kind of grandparents that your grandparents were, and that raised those children. And it's been a concern to me because that's been a backstop in communities for so long that if you had poor home conditions, you could always sort of run back to grandma, and she would sort of right the ship a little bit for young folks. And you hear a lot of children say today, I lost my grandmother. Well, that was a bigger jolt to them than losing other members of their family, even their parents in some cases, because grandmothers have been the backstop. And what I would like to encourage this group to do is don't forget about teaching young people today, how do you also become the person that protects the family as it moves along? How do you protect your grandchildren? If you've got a problem child and they've got children, how do you become the person that makes sure that that child is secure? Because that's going to still be, I think, an important consideration.
Bob, you've hit on something that I think was a driver for our founders, and that is ultimately the disintegration of the family. We're talking about the extended family. You're absolutely right. Grandmothers have raised many, many children. We work with the kids in the 9th grade classrooms, and we say to them, how many of you live with your mom and dad? There might be 2 or 3 in a classroom who do. I mean, that's the most common number, 2 or 3. How many of you live with your grandparents? You'll see more hands go up, and many who live with no family member at all. But you're right. Those grandparents are not going to be around, and the parents who were never parents in the first place are not going to be prepared to be the grandparent that their parents were. So it's a really difficult issue, and that's why we're working on this.
I think we also need to take into consideration that there are mothers who don't realize the importance of the fathers of their children to be engaged. And it would be possible to add another initiative to bring the women who are not married, who have children, together to teach them in other communities. How important it is for their children.
Thank you, Carol. I know our time is up, but that's such an important point. We have to recognize that decisions in many lives have already been made. And so loving people at the place where they are is really important, but also helping them understand what ways they can teach their children to make wiser decisions than they did. I just want to tell you one other thing that our kids tell us that just blows our minds, but it goes back to how they recognize a good relationship. So few of them have seen them. When we say to them, when we teach them love languages and we talk about that, and we say, what makes you feel loved? So many times they will say back to us, I have never felt loved. I don't know. And so if a child grows up in an environment where they have never seen an intact family, they don't know what one looks like, they don't know what to desire, they don't know why it would matter, and many times they say to us, why does any of this matter anyway? Because they've never seen it. And yes, our work hasn't stopped, and yes, we have to reach out to moms and help them understand the value that a father has in the household as well.
Let's give these guys hands. As a token of our appreciation, Debbie and Herman, we will put a children's book in the local library with your names inscribed upon it. And one of the things I just wanted to say, too, you'll be surprised at, as you just said before you went to your seat, you'll be surprised that when you engage children themselves and make them feel in a safe environment, what they will share with you about their lives and their feelings. So I thank you all so much for the consciousness that you brought us into today and the reality of where we are as a community. Let's give them a hand one more time. It's just a great. Just a couple of things, Larry, I have to hear from you each week. I saw you with a microphone. Tell us what your week has been like.
Last week I went to see a musical. I saw Annie, and I really loved it. And this weekend I went to Miami for my birthday, and it was really good. Yeah.
Great. Great. For those that don't know, Lowry's our GRSP student here from France, and we just like it, the fact that she's learning culturally from things around us, and she's also teaching us at the same time. Just want to remind you that we have a Zoom meeting tomorrow from 6 until 8. Want to make sure that we welcome again our military guests. Thank you so much for being with us today. This point, just as a reminder of who we are as Rotarians, I'm going to call Ms. Gail back up, and she's going to lead us through our four-way test. On my way to give her that, for those that are looking for your directories, they will be here on next week. Ms. Gail, if you would come.
If you will all join me, please, for the four-way test of the things we should think, say, or do. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendship? And fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Debbie, again, Herman, thank you all so much. And with no further business, we stand adjourned. Y'all stay here. Y'all stay here.
That's Waylon.